Chapter 1671. The Right Friends. Elder Socrates smiled at the badger. Oh, what sort of guild skill is so good that the Darklight host is one that nobody wants to leave? Ancient Wisdom, Immortal Rank, Epic Grade. Allows the caster to grant one skill usable by themselves or an active summon to their entire party. Usable as a guild skill. The words appeared in the air in front of Kara as Opal intervened with her illusionary skills. Oh, I see that you made friends with Elder Xiaobai. That's one of her favorite skills, and she uses it to great effect inside trial instances, when she's leading a group. I can see how that would be popular with a guild. Socrates realized. Carl nodded. Guild skill applications don't stack, unfortunately. If we're in an all-guild group, we can't give everyone 10 or 20 different skills after the first one. It will just replace what you had. But it's still pretty awesome. If we give everyone Trollish Regeneration or another similarly useful skill, the whole group benefits. It's all about the versatility of the guild member who is with them. But there are very few basic classes in the guild. After a while, we help them get unique skills so that they can advance to a rare second class. Socrates smiled. So, our new shaman has a unique skill? What did she pick? Carl turned to the shaman, as he had no idea. I went for 2 outside of my class tree. Apocalypse and the Elemental's Wrath, Transformation Skill. Elder Fersham stared at Kara, waiting for her to do the thing that showed him the skill name, not realizing that it was Opal who did it. Elemental's Wrath, Epic Grade Transformation Skill. Grants limited invulnerability, adds 250% fire damage to all attacks, causes Berserk, increasing strength by 100%. Opal brought the description up for everyone, which made Elder Socrates' smile turn slightly vicious. Oh, someone is going to have such a terrible day when they challenge this new shaman. That skill is just plain nasty. Kara nodded in agreement. This elder had the right idea. Watching people make fools of themselves would never not be funny. The shaman smiled. I picked it because of the way that it stacks. You see, it adds 250% base damage to all attacks as fire damage. But Apocalypse hits hundreds of times, each with a small amount of damage. She trailed off, and the realization began to dawn on the elders. That was a proper attack skill worth of damage added to every attack, and Apocalypse hit everything in the area multiple times per second. The combination was absolutely broken. Even before considering that the shaman would have limited invulnerability, so they wouldn't be a soft target when the enemy inevitably went after them. It was likely not enough to turn a rather fragile lizardfolk shaman into a main tank. But it was enough to ensure that she could take a hit. Elder Douglas frowned as he pondered the dilemma that Thor had brought him here to solve. It might just be easier to blame the Darklight host. Say that they're transferring members here because their roster overflowed, and then make up some nonsense about member limits due to their system.
He suggested.
Actually, we do have member limits per branch. They increase with power level, but as the Drawed branch leader, I can only support 1,000 members of the guild in the branch, without forming a new one with a separate branch leader. The guild exists in many worlds, including a handful of immortal ones, and most are the same way. Carl offered. Interesting. That's not at all like where I came from. But the immortal world that I grew up on didn't have guilds in the same way that you do. We just had unorganized clans that weren't linked to the system. Is there some marking that identifies guild members, other than the guild tag? Carl nodded. We have tabards and a banner as well if we choose to display them. Mine's a bit different from the others, as you get system upgrades to your tabard for fighting duels on behalf of the guild during guild wars. But we can all access it. Carl equipped his banner, with the 2 simple golden bands and one much more ornate golden ring on it. Oh, that is fancy. I see how that would impress other guild leaders when they faced you in battle. Elder Socrates announced, before turning his attention back to the note that he was writing for Remy. Elder Douglas examined the tabard and nodded. Indeed, it is quite impressive, and it appears to be an immortal-grade piece of equipment, so it's likely matched to the wearer. That's right. It improves with every guild war, and with every time that I advance. Douglas turned towards Socrates and Fersham. What do you say that we go with the excuse that the Darklight host needed to transfer some members? Everyone already knows Carl, and most should have been able to see that he has the branch leader tag with his guild title. Well, maybe not most, but a solid quarter of the clan anyhow. Having so many different systems in one place really is inconvenient sometimes. It does let us slide little things like this under the rug, though. If everyone was from this world and all used the local system, we wouldn't be able to brush over these inconsistencies. People would ask questions that we didn't have proper answers for. Hell, we couldn't even explain what a guild was, since it doesn't exist in the local system interface, as far as I know. We've got clans and sects that it recognizes, but no guilds. And apparently they're not different names for the same thing because you can be in a clan and a guild at the same time, but not a clan and a sect. Carl shrugged. I'm not clear on the difference either. Functionally, they're similar, but a clan seems a bit less formal than a guild. Like, the system has a guild bank and guild inventory. I don't see that for the clan. Interesting. A guild gets its own inventory. How do you work that? Anyone just takes what they want. Carl shook his head. No, the branch leader can put restrictions on it. I usually don't, as it's mostly full of items for the guild shops. It's easier to move things between guild houses that way, as the bank function has a limited range and won't cover a whole continent. It won't cover a whole continent. Elder Socrate muttered sarcastically. It would note that the continents on my home world are much smaller because the planet itself is less than a tenth the size of this one. So, they are limited. Less than 2,000 kilometers. Alright, that does sound reasonable to call restricted. But I do want to know more about this guild function. Are you in a hurry to introduce the shaman? Elder Socrate asked. No, a few days either way isn't a big deal. There will be a party tonight, and everyone will need some time to recover. You're welcome to stay. We have plenty of rooms, of any sort you might want. Everything from mountain villas, the guild house, or even a tree fort or beach cabana. Carl offered. Now that is hospitality. Don't mind if I do. Chapter 1672, Who Sleeps Alone. The locals laughed at the excitement of the elders to explore the tiny world without Carl watching over their shoulders. They wouldn't steal. That was beneath their dignity. But there was a lot to see here. Naturally, Elder Socrate was dragged off by Remy, who hadn't shown him everything that she had planted yet and still needed advice on some of the plants that didn't seem to be growing to the peak of their potential. That left two other elders to be swarmed by the hatchlings who came to watch the advancement. Hello. Are you moving here now? Do you know where you're staying? There is a nice place by the lake, where the golden fish are. Or you can stay here by the tree, which smells like sunshine, or maybe the nest. We're all done with it now, but it's new to you, right? One of the forest dragons asked. The nest? Elder Fersham asked. Yeah, we moved to the treehouse. It's so much better, but the nest was all right. The elder smiled at the little dragon's enthusiasm. I think that I will go to that big house for the evening. I'm told that it has some nice places to sleep. Ooh, the pillow pile in the library. Button cheered. Elder Fersham nodded. That actually sounds pretty good, but are you sure that it's not taken?
Yep.
Lotus and Fee are on night shift with the forest dragons tonight, so nobody will be there unless I come with you. Don't you have your own bed? I do, but who sleeps alone? It's cold and boring. The elder patted her head. Such wisdom from such a young dragon. Button smiled proudly. I learned that from Sister Lotus. Did you know that she's the very best of us at mystic cooking? Most of our new recipes are from her. Even Sister Kara's cupcakes come from her. Fersham looked around for the badger, but didn't see her. I have heard much about her adventures and her gifts. Do you know why she does that? Because nobody should be so poor that their pockets are empty. So, if she doesn't find anything, she gives them a cupcake to improve their luck and wealth. The cupcakes are magical, you know. Indeed they are. That wasn't even a joke. The cupcakes granted bonuses to whoever ate them. Button dragged the elder away, leaving only Elder Douglas, who was looking a bit lost. You can join us in the house if you'd like. There are many good spots to sleep in this tiny world, and many of the residents like to sleep in hammocks by the beach. I will warn you that they are mostly druids and nature priestesses, though. The dragon laughed. Oh, I am well aware of how they are. As soon as I saw elves, I became suspicious that they were dressing up to meet strangers. The whole species takes body positivity to an entirely new level. That gave Ray a wonderful idea. Those robes that Carl picked up, hoping for Dana to wear them, would be a huge hit with the druids here. They were so light and sheer that it was almost like wearing nothing at all, but somehow more socially acceptable. As an added bonus, it would protect them from small threats, like splashing oil, tree branch scrapes, and such. She would have to make them in green. Carl was about to follow the others into the house when someone came running his way, clearly trying to speak to him. Or someone near him. "Carl, good timing. I thought that you were going to leave again, and I would miss you. The vampire who lives with Lady Matilda informed us that it is Ozoff's millennial anniversary this month, and we need a present." Wendy, the young Oni demon mage and runecrafter, informed him. Elder Douglas paused as the odd girl curtsied, wearing a frilly dress that was clearly some sort of uniform in their guild colors. Perhaps she was a waitress? "Elder, this is Wendy. She's one of my runecrafting disciples and works as our delivery agent for VIP customers." That explains the uniform. Wendy giggled. "Actually, it's not mandatory. This one is the guild store clerk's uniform, but it's so cute on Mick that I had Lady Ray make me one too." Douglas nodded. "Very cute. The Darklight host just might be filled with oddballs at varying power levels." Carl smiled at the hyper-delivery agent. "Well, do we have any idea what he'd like for his birthday? If that's what you can call a millennial anniversary of the day he became an immortal." "He's not telling us. I even tried to get his assistant to tell me, and they wouldn't. Tiffany wouldn't tell me either. She said that Lady Matilda wants us to guess." "Of course she does. It's much more entertaining if we all struggle to guess what is going to be the best gift for him. But now that I've got you here, what do you all think of the new guild skill that I set? I thought that it would be best for everyone, since only one guild member in a group can activate the guild skill." He asked. "Oh, it's working out wonderfully. The staff have started using it as a way to recruit the orphans and slackers into the kitchen prep teams. But it's also useful in the dungeons for the myths and totems, I suppose." Kitchen prep. Well, mystic cooking is a skill, isn't it? So they can share it with the youngsters and whoever is in trouble and make them help in the kitchen. Elder Douglas chuckled at her earnest expression. "It seems that your guild has learned the joys of creative punishments. But temporarily teaching someone to use mystic cooking so that they can chop vegetables properly is absolutely wild." Carl shrugged. "I wish I could say that I didn't expect them to do something strange with it. But this was not the direction that I thought that they were going to take. Just wait until they realize that the mages can transfer skills from their summons to the group. Some of them can use epic golems, I would assume. We did leave a copy of the book at the library for our blue dragon Ike to distribute. Your guild sounds like they truly enjoy life. I will help you keep them sheltered from the immortal worlds. There are far too many people who get greedy when they think that they can get away with things. Now, I will head to the lake to see about those hammocks, and I will let you work with this little demoness." Chapter 1673. Overnight Visit. Carl and Wendy watched the dragon leave, clearly eager to get to the water, no matter how hard he was trying to hide it. He wasn't sure that anyone had remembered to ask what sort of dragon the elder was, but it looked like he was either from the water element, or it was the open air of the hammocks that was calling to him. "Now, has Ozoff gotten any new toys? Made any major changes since I left? Anything that would help give us some idea of what he needs?" Wendy shrugged. "He comes by the Alliance house now, and then to see what we've got on sale. But that's mostly just curiosity. We've been making a killing since they finally got Sapphire to cave and start making things at Mythic rank. Other than that, he's just too busy with all the stuff that got shifted to him when Matilda had to move. Right, she can't stay in that world full-time as a legend. That gives me a wonderful idea. I can make him an item to clone himself. 3 of himself would reduce his workload, and he can give the drudgery to the clones. They only get 3 of his core skills, but I think that I can do something about that. Maybe mix it with the gargoyle or epic golem skill so that they can do more. Has he been forced to take over the portal blocking duties?" Wendy shook her head. "No, Matilda automated that, I think. She's still doing it anyhow." "Alright, that's one thing that we can scratch off the list of things Ozoff will need to escape from. Now, I think that I know just the thing to give to him if you want to sit here and watch. I'll explain what I'm doing as I do it so that the runes make sense to you, and then I'll teach you the spells that I'm including if you can use them. They're a bit unique, so you might not be able to. Wendy sighed. I suspected that it might be something like that. There are so many skills that simply don't work for every class. But that Ancient Wisdom Guild skill has been huge. The things that we can do when a whole group can use a specialty skill are spectacular. The ladies of the tiny world have had the warriors drooling all over them since you changed the skill. A healer who can also grant buffs and teach ranged damage skills to regular old warriors? Even if it's temporary, that's like their birthday, Emperor Moss and the Solstice Festival all came at once. Carl laughed at the description. Well, that is a good thing, I suppose. The warriors need heroes to look up to, and who better than the lovely ladies of the Darklight host? Then he took out a chair and a small workbench so that he could get started on the project. He would make it into something that the immortal could use all the time, which wouldn't get in the way. Not a piece of equipment, Carl thought. Instead, it would be better to make it as a decoration for the man's office, so that the limited range of the spell would keep the clones right where he wanted them to be to cover the tasks he didn't want to do. That would make his life immeasurably better, now that he was responsible for so much more than he had been only a few years ago. It wasn't a secret that the old man didn't like doing any more than he absolutely had to, so with the loss of one of their most overworked immortals, the designated protector of the planet, he had been distressed to find that he was the next in line. It should have been obvious that the job would fall to him. Not only was he the oldest and the strongest, but he was also the one who already helped Matilda with most of her tasks. The only one that he wasn't actively helping her with was the one task that she hadn't delegated when she had to leave the world, the task of keeping the barrier over the world intact and immortal interlopers out. Well, most of them. They were both deliberately ignoring the fact that Carl's Darklight host branch was routinely moving people between Drod and the immortal realm. Dealing with that was too much hassle for the reward that they would get, and Azoth knew that they might actually need some of what Carl was making if there were another major issue in this world later. While Azoth was confident in his skills, the increase in the power level of the world as the ley lines began to rise toward their peak would make the world easier for others to detect, even with Matilda working to keep it hidden. That was both the most unfortunate fact of life and the greatest boon to the residents of the world that he could think of. Sure, they might get a few new immortals, but they would also have to deal with more attempts to invade. Carl worked slowly to create the layers of runes on a simple flat sheet of metal, preparing the gift in the most time-efficient way possible. Is there a reason you're making it flat and not on a statue or something? Wendy asked as she watched Carl layer and link the inscriptions so that the rune-crafted item would have the effects interact in the desired manner. Actually, I was intending to have someone attach it to the back of a painting. As I recall, we have more than a few painters in the guild, and that would be the perfect gift for Azoth. Art is eternal, and art that will let him summon clones to help him complete the annoying parts of his work is even better. Now, do you see what I'm doing here, where the two effects from the epic golems and the clones overlap? Wendy nodded. But I don't understand the clone spell. It's not one that I know. Could we do it with gargoyles? I suppose that we could. Gargoyles can do what we're asking them for. But they're tied to one location, and if Azoth needs to send these out to represent him, a gargoyle wouldn't be able to do that. So, we can tie a clone to the painting, and it can travel further than a gargoyle but will be at the painting by default. Chapter 1674. A Gift for Azoth. Wendy considered Carl's advice, then nodded. It's a bit of a niche usage case, I suppose. For most people, the gargoyles would be the obvious choice since they don't need his class skills, and keeping them in the house to work is the desired outcome. Carl chuckled. The gargoyles are also more obedient. The clones are clones, and they've got much more personality. Wendy shrugged. You say that like it's a good thing, but I'm not sure that he will see it that way. If the clones start to complain about being overworked as much as he does, we might actually just be causing more headaches for him. Carl sighed. You're right. I forgot to think of that when I was planning the coolest way to give him a gift. But it's not too late for me to alter this. I'll just make them look like clones of him, while being based on the gargoyle spell so that they don't object to being treated as wage slaves. The thought of immortal rank wage slaves made Wendy laugh. Surely, There were actually some like that in the world where Carl and the others had gone, but they were so overwhelmingly powerful in her world that the mere thought of it was ridiculous. With the less complex spell substituted in, and the item designed to simply make the clones mimic the caster and not actually take on the majority of his skills, Carl was finished much faster than he had intended, and now he just needed to find a painting to mount it behind. Now, who do we know that has a large painting ready?
Carl asked.
We got painters here in the tiny world. I'm sure that one of the ladies has something that's the right size, and their work is incredibly good. We've been selling some of it in Drod so that they feel more like they can paint all day and still be contributing. Not that anyone would accuse you of being broke and unable to support your members, but you know how the older ladies are. Wendy replied. I heard that. Someone shouted from somewhere behind them, followed by the sound of struggling and hatchling giggles. It must be one of the Beast Rangers, or perhaps she was on duty with the others helping keep track of the grassland clutch of the new dragons. Either way, she was definitely struggling with the little one, who wasn't saying anything, but who wasn't going wherever she wanted it to go. Then, it broke loose, and Carl saw a small brown blur rush for the smashing posts near him as the sand dragon managed to escape its confinement. Hi, Mr. Carl. You should see her paintings. They're really pretty. I snuck into her room last night to see what she was working on, and she was painting a pretty lady. You should buy that and give it as a gift. Anyone would like that. The druid looked somewhere between annoyed and embarrassed as she caught up. That one is a private commission. We can't sell it to Azoth. But I do have a few others that are close to the right size if you want to sell one of those instead.
Sure.
The painting will be on display somewhere in his office, so it isn't going to be some national gallery. But I do hope that it's something that he will like. She nodded. It's actually a landscape scene of the inside of the tiny world, looking across the lake at the forest with the mountains in the background. I think that as a gift from the Darklight host to an immortal, it's perfect. Carl smiled. Oh, that does sound absolutely perfect. If it's of the tiny world, everyone who sees it will wonder where it is, or if it's from someone's imagination. But he will know the truth, and he will remember us every time that he activates the clones to help him with his work. I've got the backing for the painting all ready now, so we just need to mount it. The druid nodded. I can take it to the sculptors, and they can make something out of magical metal to hold it to the painting. That will add a third category of guild crafters to the process. The more the merrier, right? Carl smiled. All right, take this and your painting to them, and they can mount it into something that is going to last for the ages. The sculptors should be able to make a sealed enclosure for the painting so that it doesn't degrade with age, even without magic. If it's done that way, then even if it sits forgotten in a storage cupboard for a few decades before he remembers to try it out, it will still be fine and just as lovely as the day that we sent it to him. I will take care of it for sure. Lady Sapphire will finally relax and stop snapping at us every time the topic comes up too, which will be great, she agreed. Sapphire is getting stressed out? I might have to bring her here for a visit, let her take a few days off from organizing things. Perhaps give her a book from the Immortal World's library as a present for all her hard work. She was a blue dragon, after all. No matter how stressed out they were, letting a blue dragon sit and read a new book, just for the sake of reading a new book, was enough to put them in a good mood for days. And that was why they were such great administrators. They didn't let the stress build up like the bronze dragons who were the avatars of the God of Laws did. Kara appeared beside him and held out a small book. Here, give her this. It's not from the Immortal World's library, but it's something new that she's never seen before. It should be enough to get her started until we have time to find her the perfect title. Do you know what fundamental rule she is working on? The Badger inquired, her tone entirely too politely professional for her not to be up to something. I'm pretty sure she's following lightning. It's her elemental affinity, and the fundamental rule of knowledge is well known to be a dead end, apparently. You can't learn enough as a mortal to use it. Perfect. Then I know where to get what she needs. Carry on. And then Kara vanished back into town. Chapter 1675. Unsupervised Kara. Now that she was unsupervised in the clan compound, Kara laughed at the inevitable chaos that giving Librarian Sapphire one of Opal's extra spicy works of fiction would cause. She was a blue dragon, The instinct to keep it safe in the library would be overwhelming, but at the same time, Sapphire was a bit of an old prude, and she was going to be both shocked and horrified by the contents. As long as nobody realized that it was written by Opal before it got to its final destination, all would go swimmingly. But for now, she had more pressing issues to take care of. She had to see how the strange new guy from the demon prison was adapting to life outside, and then she had to go visit her third favorite human and get loot for Sapphire's training. Then, she had to go to the ice cream shop before she picked Leo up from his visit with Cindy Lou's mom. The woman was convinced that Leo needed a proper mother figure in his life for balance, and she greatly enjoyed seeing the confused look on Leo's face, as his species had no innate concept of what a mother was supposed to do. What he did understand was that she made food and helped him with his homework. Plus, it was Cindy Lou's mom, and he liked Cindy Lou, so she must be good at the whole mom thing. Cindy Lou had awakened as a druid much earlier than most, and she understood the importance of things like open water and tasty greenery and hats. Kara thought that their friendship was adorable. Her feet took her where they wanted, and Kara found herself outside of the clan library, right next to the skill repository, where she could see the elder glaring at her. That man was not on her favorite human list. However, the elder behind the counter of the library desk was. The female human known only as Librarian or Nana, the library elder, had a particular hatred for loud noises and disorganized books, but Kara wasn't here to reorganize today. Instead, she was headed for the elemental knowledge section with a quick stop at the front desk. A delivery from Miss Opal. Kara announced in her best library whisper voice. The librarian smiled at her and tucked the illicit erotic literature under her robes. "What's this week's theme?" she whispered back, while keeping carefully out of reach of the badger. "This week is a special one." Opal wrote a triplet dragonkin white shoes-style romance. "I think that you'll like it." Kara winked at the elder, then darted off between the shelves to catch the acolyte that she had just seen trying to run away from them. She didn't know who it was, but nobody ran away from you if they didn't have anything that you wanted. After casting invisibility on herself and silently thanking Carl for having such amazing abilities to let her play, Kara snuck up on the unsuspecting acolyte. She was pretty sure that she recognized this one. She wasn't sure where, and the empty pockets didn't give her any clues. But Kara graciously granted the impoverished student one of Lotus red velvet cupcakes and sat down on a table to stare at her face and remember.
Gah.
Damn it, there's icing on my fingers again.
How?
She's not even here. That's the third time this week. The acolyte complained. Oh, that was it. This was the one whose parents didn't feed her properly. Most people questioned a random cupcake in their pockets. Only this girl and Swag had eaten it without questioning where it came from. So, she had started giving her cupcakes at random. How had she forgotten her face? She must have given the girl 20 of them by now. She really should have recognized her right away. But eventually, the girl would eat enough of them that she would advance and be able to afford to keep things in her pockets. Of course, as Kara kept sneaking up on her and the scatterbrained young woman had yet to realize who was giving her food, she hadn't thought to just keep something in her pocket to entertain the badger. Kara transformed as the girl secretively looked around the library and then down the cupcake like she hadn't eaten in days. That obviously wasn't true. Kara had given her 3 cupcakes this week, and she ate in the dining hall. But her classmates made fun of her for eating so much, so she had started cutting way back on the amount she took at every meal and was therefore starving all the time. She hadn't realized yet that she wasn't entirely human, and the bit of leakin' blood had increased her caloric needs. It definitely wasn't a matter of her being fat. She was the exact opposite. But Kara had stopped concerning herself with that as she took off for the elemental knowledge section that she had been heading for at the start. Just in time as it happened. The other librarian was there to chastise the girl for being loud in the main reading area and distracting the other youngsters who were trying to work. Inwardly, the girl cursed whoever kept getting her in trouble with their random cupcakes, even as she hid her hands behind her back to avoid having the library assistant notice that she had been eating. Food was prohibited in the library, after all. Kara landed in the elemental knowledge section and transformed back, then released the invisibility skill. She had no issues finding the lightning section, and then it was down to just which book was best for Sapphire. There were so many options here, from the basics to the advanced theoretical. However, the library only allowed you to sign out 2 books at once, and she already had one signed out. And she wasn't going to return the Compendium of Extinct Species until she was good and finished rereading it. Then she saw it. The perfect title. A Lightning Laws from A to Z sat on the shelf, a thick hardcover textbook that made it clear it was intended for grade school children. But the fundamental rules were something that they learned here so that they could properly advance with adulthood. If you couldn't, you would face a life worse than exile. But for her purposes, the childish cover and comprehensive nature of the textbook were perfect. She just needed to give it to Sapphire with a note to copy it and return this copy to her, so it could go back to the library. She wasn't giving up one of her withdrawal slots for this. Chapter 1676. In the library. Kara took her book to the front counter, where the librarian was reading Opal's new book hidden inside the dust cover of a book entitled Organizational Efficiency for the Modern Immortal. The woman barely looked up until she realized it was Kara in front of her. I need to sign this book out. Have you brought back your other title? Not yet. There are still extinct species in the book that I haven't found yet. The librarian decided not to question that one. All right, this is your second title. You are now at your withdrawal limit. Please do remember to bring your books back on time. This one is less limited, as the schools have their own copies, but the rule is the same. Got it. Don't worry, I'm bringing it to binge with a blue dragon friend of mine. That should assure the librarian that the book was safe. But really, it only caused the librarian to have more questions. How did she find a blue dragon that would put up with the level of chaos that she caused? Why did they need a textbook for lightning element children? And did the dragon know about the sort of books that Kara was distributing? The badger might look young, but she was developing a reputation as the contact point for the much more elusive Opal. That Faye was a pain to find. Mostly because that Opal, while she wanted everyone to see her shows, was not actually the sort of person who liked to randomly interact with people. So, she rarely came out unless she had a reason to, and spent most of her time in the tiny world, planning her next documentary on the lives of hatchlings. In contrast, Kara loved to wander through the city, people watching and giving randomly helpful suggestions to those struggling with decisions. Most of the clan hadn't realized yet that she was picking the most entertaining outcome because her advice most often worked. It might not work the way that you expected it to, but if it worked, it was good advice. Kara was just leaving the library with her loot when she saw something new and interesting on the street. The man that they had recovered from the prison, the one that she was going to go looking for next, was walking hand in hand with a dragon girl in her early teens. This was going to be too much fun. Sir, are you aware that she is a minor? I don't think that is appropriate, she called, a bit too loudly, drawing the attention of everyone on the street. Dozens of immortals turned to glare at the man, who immediately raised his hands in a gesture of innocence. Damn you, Badger. I'm not doing anything inappropriate. I am working as a tutor, and her father asked me to bring her to the skill repository today after her lesson. Kara laughed, as did most of the spectators as they realized what was going on, but a few were still giving him suspicious looks. Then, the girl ran over to hug Kara. Sister Kara, we missed you in class. Will you come over after I get this skill book and help me with my planar geography homework? I just can't seem to understand how the realms interact. The girl's words assured the last few spectators that it was a prank, and they returned to their day. Kara nodded. That sounds fun. I can't stay too long, though. I have to go get Leo and his friends and then visit the ice cream shop. The old immortal sighed. How does that make sense? It's the first day back after the weekend. Isn't ice cream supposed to be a reward for hard work? Mondays are hard work, Kara countered. The immortal looked like he was considering that, then shook his head. She wasn't wrong, but that wasn't advice that you gave kids. Wait outside. The elder at the entrance to the skill repository announced the second that they turned toward the door. The others looked confused, while Kara laughed. He means me, not you. I have been preemptively prohibited from entering his warehouse of carefully organized books. The elder nodded. It might not be an official rule, but he was going to petition to have it put in the clan scrolls at the next meeting. No chaos badgers in the skill repository. The old immortal stopped at the door, and the young dragon went inside. The elder turned to the new arrival with a curious look. How do you know Kara? She appears to know you quite well, if her first instinct is to tease you when she sees you. The old man sighed. I was locked in a demonic prison cell that had broken free from its anchor. I entered thinking it was a random dungeon, then ended up stuck for 20,000 years. Her team entered and helped me leave. Then, she realized that she hadn't checked me for loot and beat me up in the street while I was suffering from mana deprivation. The elder chuckled. He had actually seen that part, as it happened just down the street at the ice cream shop. Well, you could have a rematch now. You're ascended, even if not too far along the path. You might have a chance. The old man shook his head. No, I'm not up to that level of craftiness. My path isn't a combat one, but that of a research librarian. That's how I got the job as a tutor. What role did you go for? I haven't seen you come in for anything for yourself. The elder noted. I ascended with the rule of eternity, a minor subsection of the greater law of time. I haven't been in because I can't use skill books. I don't come from a system-using world. So, while I understand the concept, as I've encountered many system users in the past, I don't have access. You know, the Badger can fix that. The elder noted. Pardon, the Badger or the Carl? They can help you activate a class by some hoodoo about improving compatibility or teaching you a skill manually. Then, you'll be able to advance more easily, using divine assistance. The old man stared suspiciously at Kara. Is this some sort of joke? Would I joke about something so important? Now lean forward, and I will bless you with a bit of the wisdom of the Badgers. Chapter 1677. Kara would never. The older man stared at Kara for a few seconds before responding. I get the feeling that I'm going to regret this. But what is the wisdom of the Badgers? Keep in mind that if you try to kick me in the dick, I will roast you for dinner. Kara gave him an offended look that even the elder in the distance could tell was fake. What do you think of me? A kind and gentle young lady such as myself would never stoop to such lows. It's been under 2 weeks since the last time that you did it to me. Kara shrugged. That's not the point. You were trying to escape with the loot. Now, come over here, and I will teach you something fun. Reluctantly, the immortal nodded his agreement, and then his eyes opened wide as a message appeared in his vision. System activated by skill transfer. Skill learned. Pilfer. What the hell? Kara shrugged. I told you that you would get the wisdom of the Badgers. Then his gaze went vacant as he was pulled into the system's class selection screen. Let me guess, you gave him something that's going to lead him down a path that he absolutely does not want to be on? The skill repository elder asked. I wouldn't go that far. Just an unconventional pathway. However, I do think that he will be able to make something of it if he already has some useful side skills that will combine with it. Who knows, he might get a rare or elite class option right from the start. Kara offered. The elder waited patiently as the new arrival finished with his class selection and blinked in confusion, having not expected to be shunted back and forth between mental spaces. That was a new experience. Apparently, I am a treasure hunter now. It gave me some options that weren't good, and then this one. A combination of bonuses to knowledge gain and bonuses from ancient ruins and trials, with a number of rogue-type stealth and looting skills, he muttered. The elder looked impressed. You know, I didn't expect the Badger to give you that much wisdom. Treasure hunting is an amazing skill for immortals to have, with so many pocket dimensions and trials appearing around the world. If you have a skill to detect and enter them, you could be incredibly popular with the other Ascended members. The rescued immortal sighed and glared at Kara. You knew that I suffered from an immense amount of trauma related to being trapped in a separate space, so you gave me a skill that set me up to do nothing but raid trials. Kara waved her hand dismissively. No. All I did was awaken the system for you, and then you picked it all by yourself, based on the options that you had available. You spent your whole life preparing for this. You're perfect. Just maybe get a skill to get back out this time. You know, because getting in is the easy part. The elder snorted with laughter, and the newly awakened immortal lunged forward, intending to grab Kara by the throat and choke the Badger to death. Unfortunately, Kara was used to that response, and she was far too fast for him. Before he was even halfway across the distance between them, She had already transformed back into badger form and vanished with invisibility, leaving him grasping at thin air.
Damn it.
I swear that one day I'm going to make that badger pay for pranking me, he grumbled. She did you a favor, though. You've activated the local system, so you're compatible with nearly all of our resources. You've got skills and a skill tree that you didn't before. You just need to use it to help push you through ascendance more quickly, the elder reminded him. When you put it that way, it makes her sound so much more reasonable. I know, and it disturbs me too. But you're not going to catch her. She's already over by the school. If she heads in to finish classes for the day, the teachers will protect her. I don't know how she convinced them she was a legitimate student, but they seem to have accepted it without question. Fine, the badger leaves. From the door of the repository, the girl he had been tutoring laughed. You know that you couldn't actually kill the badger anyhow, right? You don't have a powerful enough attack skill to break her disintegrate barrier, and her species is born with limited invulnerability. At best, you would have to try to drown her, but she can transfer to the chaos plane at will. Even the little one knows that it's a lost cause. But don't feel too bad. You should have seen what the Carl did during his initiation trial. It was even more excessive than Thor. That whole group is abnormal. The elder reminded him. I won't even argue with that. I've heard the rumors about what happened to him while he was in the prison realm, and he's clearly come back intact. But I also heard that he recently called a few elders in for an emergency. Do you think that the demons might still be coming for him after he escaped? The student shook her head. No, I heard from Leo that they have friends in the mortal worlds who are about to reach immortality. That's likely why they called in the elders. The Carl will want to get his friends into the clan with him. The girl paused, then giggled. I just want to know if there are more little turtles coming. Can you imagine it? Dozens of little Tortolin Leos running around the clan. It will be adorable. He could make a whole tiny pirate crew. The elder chuckled. That turtle is a unique one as well. Now, that's 5 clan credits for the skill. If you want to try to catch up to the badger, this is your last chance. The girl shook her head. No, she's going to get Leo from school by now. We will anger all the moms if we bother Leo. Everyone loves him. Let's just go back and start studying. I need to get all caught up before the end of the semester. Chapter 1678. Sapphire's Role. In her library at the Drod Guild House compound, Sapphire stared at the book that Wendy had delivered her. Which one of them had determined that giving such a thing to an innocent child was a good idea? Even if she wasn't intended to read it, Wendy should not have been given a book of opal smut. Especially this sort. It would completely ruin her idea of what an acceptable relationship was, and that would be a tragedy. The blue dragon finished the book and put it aside, just as Wendy came back from the sculptor's area with a large painting in her hands. Librarian Sapphire. I have it. The Carl's gift to immortal Regent Ozoff. Isn't it pretty? It's got a spell on it to let Ozoff make clones of himself to help with the workload, and it's set into a painting in a sealed glass enclosure with the air removed, so apparently it will last for decades or centuries without magic. Carl says that this should be enough to keep the immortal regent happy. Wendy declared. Sapphire examined the painting and the immortal rank item behind it. Yes, this should be more than enough as a gift from the Darklight host as a guild. I doubt that anyone else could come up with a gift that equals this in value, even if they emptied their treasuries. So, there is no way that Ozoff will be upset with it. Plus, it solves one of the problems that he has been having, not enough hands for all the work that he needs to get done. Sapphire sighed as she realized that she was going to have to represent the Darklight host at the event again. Getting Carl or Dana to come back simply caused more problems than it solved, and now there were none of the beasts still at mythic rank who could go on his behalf. So it was all up to her. That was unfortunate. However, she was fond of the new guild skill that Carl had given them, so she wasn't intending to try to kick him out of his branch leader spot anytime soon. Having a skill like that, plus the guild item, was a great advantage for the entire guild. Eternity's Blessing, Artifact Grade. Mythic Rank. Equips in Guild Inventory. Activates the guild skill, Eternity, granting guild members the physical stats expected to be present at the peak of their life, at their current rank. That item really was a cheat, and gave them a bonus guild skill that increased everyone's health pool. Though it was mythic rank, At this point, Carl might actually be able to make them something even more outlandish. Eternity was a hard one to beat, as far as guild bonuses went though. Even if they went with limited invulnerability, it wouldn't be that much of an improvement for most of the guild, the ones who weren't taking damage regularly. Eternity gave them bonuses to all their physical stats, as if they were at the peak of their rank. Sapphire packed the gift in her inventory and left for Xylaz, where the event for the Immortal Regent would be held. Ozof had considered holding it in the capital of Sholaha. The king had objected, though. Bringing so many mythic rank members of the guild alliances all the way to the capital would turn the place into a battleground. At least in Xylaz there were agreements about proper behavior and neutral ground. It also had the advantage of putting the Immortal Regent at his guest house in Xylaz, instead of putting him at the palace in the capital, which was a huge relief for the king. That old man might be his ancestor, but the pure number of people who came to see him was enough to drive anyone mad. And that was on an average day. Naturally, Ozof noticed the moment that Sapphire entered the gala. She was the first and possibly only member of the Darklight host to come, which was going to be a huge topic of conversation among the other guilds. If they thought that the mighty crafting guild was having issues with the Immortal Regent, enough to snub him with their lack of presence, it would cause a lot of political maneuvering. Everyone would want to take over their market share, but most of the other guilds had no way to know that the reason their leaders were not present was because they had reached immortality. Immortal Regent, please forgive our small contingent this time. The Darklight host has taken responsibility for nearly 100 newborn dragons, and with so many hatchlings, things have become a bit chaotic around our houses. Sapphire explained. They hatched then? Ozof asked. All on the same day. Most of them were born at the totem rank, but some are mythic straight out of the shell. Guild leader Carl's nurturing method has proven quite effective. That silenced the room. Dragons being born at the totem or mythic rank was not something that anyone else could claim, but if Ozof wasn't going to call her out, then it must be something that he had expected. Naturally, he kept frequent contact with the Darklight host, both for items and for the sake of keeping up with what was going on in the new Home Merchants Guild. There were others who might be immortal soon, and he was hoping to move them there as well, instead of making a deal with whatever random immortal world happened to notice them first. It would save him many days of stress. As an apology for not coming himself, Carl sent you a particularly unique handmade gift. This entire item was crafted by the Darklight host. Sapphire announced, loudly enough that the still silent room would be able to hear her. Then, she took out the painting and held it up so that everyone could see it. The Immortal Rank, rare grade item that the Darklight host had made simply as an apology for being too busy for a birthday party. It felt good to flex on people sometimes, Sapphire decided. Chapter 1679. Looks good on you. Sapphire settled in at her table, to the envious stares of the rest of the crowd, and then realized that there was another guest arriving fashionably late, with their aura completely suppressed. She couldn't tell if they had a system, but they didn't feel like a common-grade human. Only because they didn't feel like anything at all. The guest walked directly up to Ozof, who was giving them an amused smile, and then handed the immortal a whole tray full of cupcakes. I'm told that these are your favorite, Dana informed him, speaking softly, so her voice didn't carry. Then, Tion's head popped out of her oversized coat, and Ozof began to laugh. Welcome, my friend. Immortality, looks good on you. I take it that your husband won't be joining us tonight? Ozof asked. Dana smiled, and the entire room was washed with a dose of fox charm. Not tonight. The locals are keeping him excessively busy, but I managed to escape for the evening. He, however, got suckered into watching the hatchlings. Tion nodded eagerly. I had Sister Opal hide us so that we could get out and come explore. I haven't been here in forever. Thank you both for stifling your aura. It would be a bit of an issue with the other guests if you did not. Now, would you like to sit? Or will you be joining Miss Sapphire at her table? Dana looked to where Sapphire was seated, surrounded by other blue dragons. I think I'll stay here. Decarion, Dark Lady, it's a pleasure to see you again. Dana greeted the other two immortals already seated at the table. Welcome, Dana Mage. I do wish that we had more time to get to know each other while you were still living locally here in Xylaz. The Dark Lady of Nerid replied, her flawless onyx elven features cracking into a soft smile. And not just because she wants to spend more time with Lady Ray. Dakarian joked. She does have a way of making herself memorable, that is for certain. But I see that we've managed to gather quite the crowd here today. It's a bit of an oddity these days. Everyone seems to forget their own birthdays. Even in our new hometown, they don't celebrate them except for the children. Dana explained, as the Dark Lady carefully fished Tion out of her coat. The little fox went willingly and sighed as she found the perfect spot to pet between his ears. Immortality had advantages. She knew all the tricks. Sapphire did her best to hide her shock at seeing Dana here. She hadn't been informed that anyone from Carl's team was coming, and if she had known, then she could have just had Dana do the delivery, which would have surely been much more impressive from the viewpoint of the other guests. However, Dana had planned this on purpose. She wanted Sapphire to take up the role of branch leader, now that Carl wasn't really doing the duties anymore. She was already tagged as the vice leader, which gave her most of the authority and powers of a branch leader. All that was left was to make sure that she knew the ancient wisdom skill, or that Carl made an item that could grant it to the guild, so that the craftsmen in Drod didn't lose it when the transfer was made. Have there been any more issues since the last major one? Dana asked as a server brought over a drink. It was clear that the mythic rank mage was trying to determine who she was, but was failing to connect the name Dana on her system interface to the Darklight host's Dana mage. Nothing. It's been remarkably quiet. I believe it's because legendary Matilda has upgraded the protections on this place, making it harder to reach and even more securely protected from unwanted guests. However, she's been indisposed, and I haven't had a chance to speak with her. Dana nodded. I will ask Kara. I know that the two of them are in contact. If there are issues, we can likely help out with prevention. Soon, we will have a full team at the immortal rank. The group at the table looked shocked. So soon? The Dark Lady asked. The ones that we rescued were at the peak of mythic rank and only needed some comprehension and motivation to advance. Now that we've provided it, they're going to be growing quickly. We've also managed to bond a majority of the Beast Rangers to Swamp Dragon hatchlings, who will be immortal soon. They need time to grow, but you know how fast that happens when bonded with a system user. Dana's explanation gave the group hope that they might not suffer too badly if there was another invasion. The rescued former slaves would fight harder than anyone to prevent such a fate from befalling others. Well, that is most excellent news. Now, what is with that gift?
Dakarian asked.
Dana smiled, while Tion laughed. We had the kitchen at the clan make them based on Lotus' newest recipe. They cause the mana pathways of the body to relax, giving you a surge of power and a burst of rapid growth. Tion nodded. They make you sleepy, though. The Black Dragon avatar chuckled softly. You had someone make the immortal rank version of a green priestess's special brownies in cupcake form? They're better with icing. Tion agreed. They really do work well to help with growth. We've tried feeding them to a number of the mythic residents of the tiny world, and there is a good chance that they will all break through and reach tribulation within the next few days. If you have a particular successor in mind who has reached the bottleneck, these might help them. Or you can test them yourselves. As a cupcake, they really are incredible. We've also made them in an Immortal World's kitchen, so they're infused with more powerful energy than what you find here. Speaking of which, Carl will provide an item for you later to store immortal energy in a world that doesn't generate it. It helps with growth, but giving it as a gift would mean that we had to explain what it does to the public. Through the mental link, Carl realized he was being volunteered. That was fine. He could make an immortal energy conversion and gathering array and stick it on a mana crystal in under an hour, then they could deliver it in the morning. Or 3 of them. Because those other 2 would not forgive him for leaving them out. Chapter 1680. Carl can babysit. Carl got right to work while Dana and Tion had dinner with the immortals of their homeworld. She wasn't lying about him helping watch the dragons, but that was mostly because the little ones had latched onto him as soon as the other immortals had gone to bed. Since he didn't have his Dana mage with him, that made him a perfectly viable option for a pillow as far as Tenna was concerned, and the little divine lightning dragon was very stubborn. Carl had expected Yuan, the curious little black dragon, to be with him, but he had latched onto Shade, the divine moor cat, as their names meant the same thing. So, Anila had a cat on one side and a dragon on the other as she sprawled out on one of the guest beds. Carl worked with the little dragon on his lap and created 3 of the mana crystals with an advanced array on them. If he was going to make them, he might as well go all out. So, he had added a small illusionary domain to them, both as a training space and as a way of limiting the effect of the energy gathering array. He didn't want to affect an entire city or even a whole nation. For that reason, he limited it to the range of the illusionary domain, which couldn't cover more than a few hundred meters radius from the stone. It could either be a separate space or an overlay on an existing building, but it would increase the mana level as immortal energy to a level comparable to the new home clan. Ironically, that was lower than the energy in the tiny world these days. His gathering and conversion arrays weren't affected by the energy drain that was somewhere in the ocean, so it simply condensed in the space, as the increasing number of immortals staying in the space radiated energy all day. He was just finishing when the sun started to come up, and Elder Douglas came over to join him. "Where do we find food in this place?" he asked. "Give it 30 minutes, and they will be cooking on the beach, near where you were sleeping. Or there will be breakfast in the house. Usually they're the same thing. There is a meal rotation in the kitchens so that everyone knows that what they want will be available. But the house is always a day off rotation from the others, so that if you miss something you like, you can have it there. But they also have guests, so they might make something special." I wonder if Versham managed to survive the night? He never lets anyone in his bed. Even when he had a girlfriend, he went to her place and left before the night. The dragon joked. "And we let Button loose on him. She is not the sort to sleep alone, and she is a restless sleeper," Carl laughed. "You knew all that and didn't try to stop her?" "I've got my own sleepy little dragon to entertain. Besides, he wanted to tour the tiny world, and Button likes to go for a fly every morning. He's a peak immortal. If he can't keep up with an adolescent forest dragon, he might as well hand in his man card." Douglas snorted with suppressed laughter. "Did you not know? Versham is an immortal world traditionalist. He flies on top of a sword like it's a surfboard." Carl groaned. The dragons are never going to let him live that down. And don't let Kara see it. She'll likely try to steal his sword. He distinctly recalled the beasts calling someone bad at life the last time they had met immortals who used their swords as a flying device. It wasn't actually a bad method, as it gave you a stable platform to fight from. But it did look a bit goofy to species that had wings. They were joined by Brother Chin and Jeff, as well as Nyan, who came chasing after the 2 small dragons. "Carl, good morning. What are you making?" "I felt it as soon as I woke up," the reincarnated divine lightning dragon explained. "They're mana collection arrays, like a training room device. I'm making them for friends of mine in the mortal worlds. Did you want one as well? I'm sure that they won't be too expensive." Elder Douglas laughed out loud. "With a storage crystal and an illusionary domain defensive zone? Those 2 alone are expensive, and then there is the collection array to increase the energy density in the region. I'd say that they're likely 30 credits each, 60 if that domain makes a whole separate space, like the Villa Stones." "Alright, so they're not cheap, but there are 3 of them already in the tiny world. One is in the library, one in the mountain town, and another at the hot springs." "The hot springs?" Elder Douglas asked. "Oh, it's in the mountains on the other side of the ridge. It's a popular romantic retreat, and there are a half-dozen pools, all blocked from sight of each other by the rocks." Jeff sighed. "I will go with him to look for them later, but this almost feels like cheating. Like I'm living too well, and I'm going to have to pay for it later." "Of course you are. Since you're here, you volunteered to help raise the hatchlings, Professor." The regressed dragon laughed. "That's if they ever take me seriously. Most of them don't believe that I'm an actual adult. Tenna did act far more mature than her hatchling status as well, so it might be a divine lightning dragon trait. The difference was that Jeff actually knew things and Tenna was just completely confident in everything that she did. Usually without any reason for her confidence, but that didn't change anything in the mind of the tiny dragon who was currently sleeping through their conversation in Carl's lap. A little bit of noise wasn't going to rouse her. Not when she had found somewhere this warm and comfortable